Hey guys, Pete here from Leisure Time, and welcome to another episode of What's Wrong with My Hot Tub. So today we're looking at a 2019 Pulse, Hot Springs Pulse, and the customer was saying that the light on the front emblem was flashing red and nothing was working. Check it out. Sure enough, the emblem is flashing red. We take a look at the top side screen, but it does say protection mode on there. And the important part to look at here is this big long digit number down here. This is the error code, and a lot of times I can see what's going on just by looking at the digits on that error code. One of the most important parts is looking at where the L is and where the H is. The H is going to indicate like a high limit. So what that's saying is you want to look at the following three digits after that, and we have H049, which tells me that the water is at 49 degrees. And now this is a bit of a flaw in hot springs. And so what I suspect has happened is a customer just recently drained and refilled their hot tub. It actually looked like they had overfilled it, and so I got a siphon hose draining some of the water off the top here. The water was up to about the middle of the pillow, which can get too high, especially if you start covering up valves. If the water gets high enough to those valves, then we can start causing leaks and siphoning that way. But we want to kind of be right where the bottom of the pillow is, which is exactly where we want to be. I'm going to pull this siphon hose out now because I don't want to drain any more water out. Right now we want to address the issue with the protection mode. Right now our weather still gets pretty cold at night. It gets down into the low 30s. And if we're lucky, we hit 60 as a high, which means the water coming out of the ground is still pretty darn cold. And like I said, this is a bit of a flaw with hot springs. If the water is too cold, then it's going to go into protection mode. If it gets too hot, it goes into protection mode. But the best way to get that taken care of is to basically just trick the circuit board into thinking the water's warmer than what it is, which I have brought two new sensors. I got the high limit and the control thermistor, which is just the regular temperature sensor. So we'll pull open the panel. We're going to plug these into the circuit board without actually installing them into the heater assembly. And I'm just going to hold the sensors in my hand to keep them warm and to trick the circuit board into thinking that the water's warmer than what it is. That way we can turn the breakers back off and on again and see if we can get the thing to start circulating and heating. I'll go ahead and turn the breakers back off. So I'm disconnecting the emblem on the outside. Just let that cord hang. I'm going to move my panel off to the side here. Remove the two screws from the circuit board cover. With the temperature sensors, there's the high limit and the regular temp thermistor. They make them so you can't confuse them and mix them up. On the one you have threading that's larger than the other one, and then you also have the two plugs that are two different looking plugs, so you can't accidentally plug the wrong one into the wrong slot. So here, I'm going to remove both of them. So you got the high limit over here, just let that dangle down, temp sensor over there, and then I'm going to plug these ones in out here. Make sure you get the prongs into the slots the right way, or else the board won't be able to read them at all. And then, I mean, it's pretty warm out here. I'm just going to let these sit out in the sun and not plug them into the heater. Go over and turn the breakers on. Now I try to label the breakers anytime I go to a service call, and they're labeled with one's the heater and one is for the pumps, and I just want to turn on the pumps. We don't want to worry about the heater right now. So we're still going into protection mode here. It's trying to tell me that it's 86 degrees, which obviously it's not. And I went and grabbed my multimeter. So right now I told you we want to ohm out the sensors, so we're going to turn it to the ohm setting. So we'll plug in the leads, and it's already set to an auto test for ohm value. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to take a cup and I'm going to get a cup of water from the tub itself, and that way I can compare the two probes to the new ones to the same thing that's in the water as the old ones. We do this simply just by sticking your probes in the back side here, so you're making contact with those wires, and then we're going to look at our meter and see what's coming up on there. About a 13.40. So the ohm value is going to continue to change as the temperature changes. Now I just barely dropped those sensors into the water, so it's kind of building its way up to what the ohm value is. So maybe when you do this, give those sensors a minute or two inside the cold water. But both sensors were dropped in there at the same time, so I should be able to get the same value out of the other one. So I'll pull it out of my high limit and check my temp thermistor. This one's showing me 17.08, 9, 10, 11. It's just going to keep climbing. We'll jump back over to the high limit. That one says 17.46, 48, 49, 50, so it's still a good temp sensor. Both of them should be within reading. Let's compare to the ones here on our circuit board. And it's the same water, cold water, so we should be getting the same reading. Here's our temp sensor that's inside the tub, 19.78. Here's our high limit, 20.18. Still within a 2 ohm range. 19 and 20 is still an acceptable range. After messing around with it for a minute, I have figured out that what had happened was on the top side, when I have the other temp sensors, the ones that are mounted in the heater, when they're plugged into the circuit board, the high limit temperature sensor was sensing 110 degrees. Whereas the thermistor, the control thermistor sensor, was sensing about 50 degrees, which is what the water is. It's about 50 degrees. When I unplugged them from the circuit board and we ohmed them out, they both were ohming at the same rate, meaning that they should have been both reading the same temperature. So what I ended up doing was turning off the breaker, unplugging the high limit sensor from the circuit board, but leaving in the temperature sensor, plugged in the control sensor, and then plugging in my exterior high limit sensor into the circuit board, turning on the breaker, and then it was able to pop up with the home screen. Gives the current temperature of the water, and everything else is, should be working fine from there. I got an amp clamp here on the heater showing me that the heater is on and working. What I then did was quickly unplug my exterior temperature sensor, high limit sensor, sorry, and then plugged in the one that's mounted in the heater back into the circuit board. It did go back into the high limit because it wasn't able to read any temperature, so I turned off the breaker, turned it back on, came back, and it was working fine. As I said, sometimes when you put too cold of water into a hot tub, it kind of freaks out the sensors a little bit, and their ohm value can be different. They'll read different temperatures, and maybe just turning on the heater for a minute or two with my exterior sensors was enough to warm up that one sensor that's still in there. So the sensor shouldn't be bad. I didn't have to actually change out any sensors at all. We just kind of tricked the circuit board back into thinking that the water is warmer than it was, and now it's heating back up again. And I did want to show you a little trick for putting the panel back on by yourself. I've been to this tub before, and I have removed the clips, call them cleats, that are screwed onto the studs there, and then the cleats that are actually on the panel over here, because I have found they are no help at all. They just get in the way. So I unscrew those, get rid of them, and it's going to make it a lot easier to mount that panel back up. All right, I'm going to reconnect our plug for the emblem on the outside. Now this panel can be tricky because it's so long. It's hard to get one side in or keep both sides up at the same time. So what I do, I can get one screw in the corner. Sometimes that means the other corner on the other side is gonna fall down. Kind of eyeball through the hole, get one screw up in the top corner, just get it started. You don't even have to tighten it down. Then come over, grab the other corner, lift it up, drive in my other screws. I always like to do them, keep them loose, because it allows the panel to kind of wiggle around until you get the rest of them threaded and started. Once you got all of them in, again, don't over torque them, just snug them down. Keep my torque down at a 1. That one was a weird one, I gotta admit. Usually don't have that much issue with them. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, let us know.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for future content from Leisure Time Inc.